here on Wednesday mornings to donate an hour to talk to people and to answer questions. We do need to remind everybody at the start of the show that there is no expert that can answer individual specific questions. So if you're looking for a specific for your child or for yourself or somebody that you care about on the spectrum, that's not possible in this format. But when you write in with information and clues as to what's going on, what we get to do is pick Dr. Granpeesheh's brain for what kinds of things to be on the lookout for, what to do next, what she knows about that kind of behavior from other people that she's worked through. And that is invaluable. It's just absolutely invaluable.
Well, we hope to be able to give some general guidance to people. I wish we had the opportunity or the possibility to help people in much more detail, but this is as much as we can do, and hopefully it provides some guidance.
But we're, in the next couple of weeks, going to be doing a show just on telehealth. And that's a really interesting field because although in this format, no one can give individual specific advice, there is a burgeoning field of telehealth. And for so long, I know that when my family found CARD, what it meant to me. See, I'm going to start to cry already today, this early in the morning. But I know what it meant to me, and I know all the prayers that it answered for me. And I've told you before that it answered so many prayers, and then my next prayer was, how does this get to everybody else?
Right.
And I had not met Dr. Granpeesheh at that point, and I didn't know that that was what was on your heart and your mind, that you were already figuring that out. I was worried and pacing the floor and didn't know that you were already figuring that out. And you've systematically chipped away at that and given people resources so that no matter where they are. And this new piece of telehealth, we're going to do a whole show about it in the coming weeks, about how amazing it, for those of you who've been watching in Afghanistan and places around the world where you just don't have access to the things that we have here, and we're trying to get more here, there's even more that can be done now. So I just have to take a second to applaud you for thinking of those kinds of things.
Fortunately, we had the same passion as you did for a long, long time. And how can you not when you're in this field, just this 1 hour that you and I spend together, and we have so many people writing in with questions. And so fortunately, many years ago, we thought we have to get this information out to other people, and therefore we now have IBT, which provides all the training that you need to do this type of intervention, and of course Skills, which provides the contents, the curriculum that you need. And really, I think when I read, like today, the first question that we'll address, and I was just reviewing it a couple of minutes ago, when you look at families who are just overwhelmed with what they have on their plates, you always say air hugs, air hugs, but truly, I am just amazed at how some of our parents are handling life.
Yeah.
And so we're very, very passionate about trying to help you learn the techniques and implement. Take a breath so that you can actually learn for a second and implement these techniques, because they're incredibly helpful for every child. It does take a lot of energy.
It does. And I need to say, before we even get to this question, that there's never any judgment, right? We don't have judgment because we are all aware of how much energy it takes.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But I have to say, and I try to send you guys air hugs as much as possible, and to tell you what a great job you're doing and how meaningful it is. But more and more, we get down to some tough love too.
Yes.
Because sometimes you get so tired, and I know I have been in this circumstance where you get so tired that I do a talk called The Amazing Paralyzed Woman, because if I get too tired and I have to choose to do something, I can know what to do, but I'm paralyzed.
Right.
And I need for somebody in that moment to go, okay, you're paralyzed first, and now you need to do something because you're paralyzed.
Right.
And sometimes that's hard, and sometimes you get mad at the person, but I don't know about you, but I'm going to participate in a little tough love this morning.
I mean, we have to. We all need it. We all kind of need it once in a while. I mean, right now I'm going through a bunch of stuff with my 15-year-old who just had surgery, and you just there's so much, you get so overwhelmed with whatever it is you're dealing with that you get lazy about everything else. And I think that's kind of what happens because, we all know as parents, life is all about kind of keeping everything under control,
Yeah.
keeping the diet, the activities, the whatever it is, and all under control. And it's hard when you read stories like this or emails like this. It's just very hard, especially when you have multiple children on the spectrum and you feel like there's no one helping me.
Yes.
And truthfully, this is a field, ASD is a field where you do have to take charge as a parent.
Yeah.
Much more so than anything else. The stuff that I'm dealing with, there's a lot of physicians helping us with various things. With autism, you can easily lose control, and you just do need to educate yourself as much as possible and stay in control of things as a parent.
And again, I want to say again, and I'll say it 3 more times, there's no judgment. Because,
None at all.
No judgments whatsoever. But I always tell the story about that after we started ABA with CARD and my son was making so much improvement, a woman came up to me that I kind of knew and said to me, Shannon, it seems like Jem is doing so well. My son just got diagnosed. What should I do? And I kind of mamby-pambied it a little bit and said, well, you want to consider doing a good quality ABA program. Well, you want to consider this. You want to consider this. I didn't say, okay, today, as if your house was on fire, you need to call this number and you need to get started.
Right.
Because I didn't want to overwhelm her.
You felt bad, yes.
I felt bad. And so I said, well, this is what we did, and different people do different things, but you want to consider this. And then 2 or 3 years later, she came back and ran into me in the grocery store, and her finger was out, and she pointed at me and she yelled at me and said, I am so angry at you. And she said, because you knew what I needed to do, and you didn't kick me in the butt, and you didn't tell me you must do this. You made it sound like it was a choice.
Interesting.
And I had an out. And she said, and you knew, didn't you, that I needed to do it and that my whole life was going to depend on it. And of course, she was right. I did know that. But I had, I want to be gentle and whatever. I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Because I'm never going to have another mom come up to me in the grocery store and say, you knew and you didn't tell me. And you should have told me it was life and death. So we're going to couch that here. So this first question that got written in, and I love this mom. She says, hello, Dr. Doreen and Shannon. Thanks for all your advice. I love your show. You guys make my day every week. I've asked for advice in the past, and I feel like you know my kiddos already. I have 2 kids with ASD, however. My little one keeps us on his toes. He's a sweet boy and very smart, extremely hyper, and very defiant. He is language delayed and has a lot of articulation problems. We just got him reevaluated since the district was giving us a hard time on services, and he met the criteria again on the DSM for ASD and walked out with 3 other labels. He is very aggressive towards others and has explosive tantrums that can last up to an hour. Anything simple can set him off. He screams, kicks, punches anybody, throws, bites, throws anything at us or at random people when in public, destroys property, flips chairs, tables if he can lift it, says very rude things to us. He is a runner, and we have him on a harness when we are out on outings, which he pulls it very hard when he is mad. He has no understanding of safety. He still is in a car seat since he throws tantrums in the car and removes his seatbelt while I drive. Due to his behaviors, the school couldn't handle him, so he was switched for the 3rd time, now going to a high-functioning autism program. His triggers can be routine changes. If we move, he doesn't get his way. Some other times I can't even tell. I'm not even in a store and not sure, I think is what that is. I'm not even in a store for 10 minutes and then he throws a tantrum. So being out with him is very difficult and not safe. That's what it is. We do time out when he displays aggressive behaviors like hitting, but he keeps getting out to hit us, to break things, and ends up removing all of his clothes and throws at us, which I have to stop what I'm doing to keep everyone safe. When he's finally calmed, he does say that he's sorry. He is not on ABA, just counseling behavior therapy once a week. I was asked to get him for a psychiatric assessment due to his aggressive behaviors since he had physically hurt his older sibling when mad, but I'm hesitating due to medications. Also, I'm nervous about it, and I feel maybe we haven't tried it all yet before we go that route. My other ASD kid is already on med changes and side effects have been a headache, and I don't want to repeat that story with a sad face. I'm so drained and I'm physically exhausted and I have no idea what else to do. Please, we need some advice. Thanks a bunch. And I wrote her back, and because I missed the little part about the ABA, I wrote her back and I said, I'm sending you a hug and I will ask Dr. Doreen to address this on Wednesday, but you don't say whether you're getting good quality ABA, which she actually did, and if you are, how many hours. And she wrote back and said, thanks so much, Shannon. He is not on ABA, just counseling behavior therapy once a week. It's like what you said last week on the program about the parent you came across who decided to wait on ABA because of how hectic it can be and time consuming. That is me. I have 2 on the spectrum and a teenager who will be up for college next year, so it's been a crazy time for me, and I keep holding off on ABA. Looking forward to your shows this week.
Okay, so I see why you say we're gonna have some tough love today.
We're gonna have some tough love.
So the key piece of information I wish I had was the age of this child. And the functioning level. I can't tell, but if he's in a high functioning class, he's most likely verbal.
So if you are watching in this moment, write in on the live feature and tell us that information.
Absolutely. But regardless, I think the most important thing you can do at this time is to actually get an ABA program going. In fact, you should probably be getting an ABA program going for both of your children. It will help both of them very significantly. With this level of challenging behavior, you should have no problem getting the program funded through your insurance, and also you should be easily able to get a very intensive program for your child, which means not 1 hour a week, but 40 hours a week. And if it might be hard for you to realize that is the frequency of ABA that is required, but basically that means that your child will have perhaps an ABA therapist from the time he wakes up, get him ready if it's appropriate for him to even be in school at this point. See, when you get an ABA program involved with you, the quality ABA people will do a lot of evaluations and identify how much school is appropriate and what is the actual goal. So, I think you're looking at life in a slightly different way than I would look at it. For me, it's always important for when I see a child to identify how far he can go. How far can I push him? How close to typical development can he get? I don't know that about your child. I don't know how much can he learn. I know one thing for sure, he can learn to get rid of all of these behaviors. I've talked about challenging behavior, but I'll quickly talk about it again here because I think it's really important. Challenging behavior is not a symptom of autism. Challenging behavior is just what we do when we have no other way to communicate. So challenging behavior is a way of communicating. You yourself wrote a lot of little keywords that indicate he's trying to communicate. For instance, you wrote, when he doesn't get his way, and you wrote, he'll do so many behaviors when he doesn't get his way. He'll do so many challenging things that I have to stop what I'm doing to keep everyone safe. That in itself is really clear that he is communicating with you and saying, I need you to stop what you're doing and come interact with me. If he had appropriate levels of language and if it was easier for him to use his language, instead of throwing tantrums, hitting people, etc., he would express what he wants. And most of the time for our kids, it's, I want an object, I want an activity, I don't want an object, I don't want to do an activity, I don't want to be in this store right now, or if I am in the store, I want this, this, and this. Or it's just everything he's doing is when he wants something or doesn't want something, and instead of actually expressing it verbally, he is acting out. And these behaviors can come under control very rapidly. It's just a matter of getting the message to him that the behavior is not going to have its expected effect. when you throw a tantrum, when you hit someone, you're not going to get what you want. Instead, you have to use some form of communication that's appropriate, verbal or nonverbal, and then we will give you in increments the things that you want. So this type of stuff comes under control when you have a good ABA program. But what's more important is that you need a lot of hours of ABA, because the reason he's doing these things instead of communicating is because he doesn't have the skill to communicate. So a really good ABA comprehensive program teaches him how to communicate, how to express himself in more appropriate ways. So, you know, you have a million different things going on here. You have elopement, you have aggression, you have safety issues, you have a lot of stuff going on. Please, wherever you are, get involved, find the closest ABA provider, evaluate them, interview with them. What you're looking for is not someone who will come and say, I'll do a couple of hours of ABA a week. That's not the effective dose. What you're looking for is a very high quality, well-trained ABA provider who will say, your child needs a comprehensive, that's the word, not a focused program, a comprehensive ABA program, and I need to start out doing 30 to 40 hours of ABA per week. That means there's a therapist at your house. When your child wakes up, the therapist helps him learn how to get himself dressed, how to get ready, how to have breakfast. Then he goes off to school. If school is an appropriate setting, you have someone with him in school, a shadow or someone who is helping him through the activities. Then he has ongoing ABA when he comes home, and the ABA at home in the afternoons and evenings is working on everything from language to social behavior, safety, communication with others, friendships, relationships, academics. Depending on what age he is, an appropriate program will address all of his needs. And as Shannon said, there's nothing you can do that's more important than getting a comprehensive ABA program for him. Don't even look at medication or anything else right now. Remember, ABA is the single approved intervention for autism. It is the one thing that is approved and therefore is insurance funded. So you need to get him a program.
Yeah, and I want to say that that's going to be hard. Like, let's not candy coat it.
I mean,
that's
it may
going to
be
be hard.
depending on where you are.
Well, but even, there's a process that you have to go through.
Yes.
And even in the best of all, the first thing I'm going to say is go to centerforautism.com and see how close you are to a card office. But even doing that, it's going to take a while to get started.
Yes.
And you're going to have to go through the skills assessment, and that's going to feel like, like I want to start. You got me convinced I want to start, and I got to do all these steps. But each one of the steps is important and worth it. And you're going to have to just mentally, I mean, the thing that I said to somebody recently is, okay, I want to picture, here's your house right now, and there's a whole bunch of things that aren't working. I want you to picture that we're going to tilt your whole house on its side.
Right.
And for a minute, it's going to be like, whoa, there's stuff in the air, and I don't know where to grab onto, and whatever. But once the dust all settles, you're going to be like, oh, stuff works.
That's right.
But you got to go through the tipping, right?
right.
And it's going to be a transition. And I will hold your hand through it. And I will get you other parents to hold your hand through it. But this is not, you wrote in and said, please help. And I'm telling you, this is the help. Don't be the person that's like, okay, but I'm still waiting for what's the message. The message is your house is on fire. You must do this. And you got to get it started today. And you can't just get it started for the one. You need to get it started for both of them. Just get it over, tip the whole house at the same time. And you know what I always say, we get through this together. We hold hands. Si se puede. You can do this. We can all do this. But if you wait, and I know the kind of thinking that comes with, well, it's complicated right now. I will wait to do that. All you're doing is postponing when things can get better and making it longer before even when the intervention comes that it can get better. So you must do it, and you must do it now.
That's right.
And you can write to me, and we can talk on the phone and get you started down this path, but it needs to happen for you because you're overwhelmed and exhausted and you need this help, and you're worth it, and your kids are worth it. So it has to happen now. And anybody else who's listening, listening who is like, oh, well, I've been meaning to do the hour. I was thinking, but my child is so high functioning. We have a question where somebody wrote in and said, why are we calling all these kids high functioning when they are having so much trouble functioning? And I think that's a problem with our community right now, is that we want to be hopeful, so we say high functioning, but let's be hopeful and get them high functioning.
Yeah, absolutely. And, don't be afraid. All you have to do is every day you do one thing. Today you get online and look at our website, centerforautism.com, and you will find on there all of our office locations. Try to see if you have an office that we have an office that's close to you. If we do, great. Then you go through our admissions process. We have stopped requiring skills to be done prior to intake, by the way. So what happens now is you're supposed to do skills in the first week or 2 weeks or something, but we're doing intakes pretty rapidly. It's
such an amazing team of people, you guys.
It's just a lot of stuff that's very important. As Shannon said, it's incredibly important for you to do skills. Skills is our assessment process that helps us identify exactly what your kids each need. You can see how different your two children are. So it's important for us to understand exactly what your kids are capable of and what they have difficulty with. So bear with it as you go through the roughly 4,000 questions on each child. But it is very helpful, it is important. We will also then schedule and do a bunch of assessments. All of these things are really important. So please go through the steps. In a couple of months, like before the end of this year, let's put it that way, if you get started right now and we're in September, before December you will have a really good program in place and your life will lighten up. You will have so much support and so much help from these well-trained, caring individuals that you'll be amazed. So just go through, bear with it. The first month or two is a little bit of work. After that, it becomes a lot easier.
And you don't really have a choice. You need to do it.
You need to
do it today. But contact me if you want me to help you to hold hands through it. I'm happy to. Okay, a couple of things just to lighten it a little bit. Somebody said, welcome to Samantha. And they said, Shannon, hope Luxbox pays you because we purchased the fun toys and our friends enjoy it too. I just want to tell you, programming note, we're having Lux Blocks back on tomorrow because the first time that they were on, we had some sound difficulties. So we're having Lux Block back on tomorrow. If you haven't seen these toys, you have to tune in tomorrow. And by the way, no, they're not paying us a thing, but I'll let them know that you said that. I'm going to let them know. And they said, in fact, I got books, toys, and ideas thanks to your show. Have the card textbook, have the Pocket OTs textbook, have the anxiety book, which I assume you're talking about Dr. Jed Baker's book. They've purchased Camel Milk. We'll let Christina Adams know that. You've been watching The Autistic Genius. Love that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Thanks for sharing your wealth of info. And of course, for the wonderful Dr. Granpeesheh.
Oh, that's so nice.
And I just want to say, if you love the kinds of things that we endorse here, make sure that you're watching a week from today because there's a new product that Kirkman Labs is putting out that I called and requested it, so I'm of course endorsing it. You've heard us talking about the studies about the probiotic L-Reuteri. Well, Kirkman Labs has an announcement. I'm very excited about it and can't wait to start ingesting it. Let's say that.
That's awesome.
I want myself and my kid to have the first bottle off the runway. Okay, we're going to take a short break and then we're going to come back and talk about a young man who is not very expressive, but is being very expressive about the fact that he doesn't want to go back to school. And I know some of you are dealing with that as we all go back to school. So stick with us more after these messages.
It's every parent's desire for their child to have a great start in life. Yet there is a condition affecting more children's lives than pediatric cancer, diabetes, and AIDS combined. Autism strikes 1 in every 150 children.
Today, 1 in 110 kids in the U.S. will be diagnosed with autism. That is a huge jump from 30 years ago when it was 1 in 30,000.
Startling new report finds the number of children with autism is skyrocketing. The Centers for Disease Control estimates 1 in 68 children has a form of autism. Now that's a 30% increase in just 2 years.
Well, a lot of the children and all the accomplishments over the last 20 years, I'm thrilled.
I think what kept me was the feeling that, you know, I would have a parent come to my office late at night at UCLA and just fall apart. And this is a long time ago. There were much less back then in terms of services and knowledge and so on. And I would just sit with the family and the parents and walk them through and try to take away some of their fears, you know. And at that point I realized, I think the thing that's actually most important to me is that process. I mean, thank God that I've been very, very lucky and blessed to have so many incredible clinicians join me along the way and just develop CARD in such an amazing, magnificent way. That I could, you know, for me it was more really about how can I help the families? What can I do for the moms, the dads, you know? It is just, and I feel like, you know, there's no way I would ever really know because I haven't had my own child go through this, but I've experienced it with people a lot of times.
Hi, this is Megan. I'm in first grade all by myself. My teachers are so fabulous. I like to read books. I like to go to my friends' birthday parties. I like to invite my friends to my birthday parties. I once had a sleepover with a friend. I like to have play dates with my friend. I'm the best reader in my class. I like to go to the library. I like to read different series of books. And here's how I learned to do all these things. By my card friends and Dr. Granpeesheh. Thank you, card friends and Dr. Granpeesheh.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. And you just saw a little bit about Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh right there. And we're amazed that we get to have her here on Wednesday mornings. I want to dive right into this next question. Hello, Shannon. My son is 16 years old and has been diagnosed with high-functioning autism, mild. He attends a mainstream school. His marks have improved from grade 8, where his average was 18%, to grade 10, where the average is 54%. His teachers describe him as being extremely quiet and well-mannered, and his peers echo this too. We have just started a new term, and she says her child's name there, so I'm not going to say it. He is refusing to go back to school. All he says is that he dislikes everything about school. This is a lot of information from him. He never shares his opinions or has conversations with any members of our family and does not socialize out of school. When prompted to talk about his interests, he will provide facts. Apart from this, he is uncommunicative. How do I draw him out? When he was younger, he was very verbal about his daily struggles in the playground due to being bullied, unfairness of people making too much noise, and not obeying the rules. Please help.
Oh, my heart
Takes your breath
goes out
away,
to you.
right?
Yeah, I just, So, you know, let's pay attention to the fact that he's unhappy. Let's find out why he's unhappy. This is really, really important. I guess, you know, in the long run, it's important to make sure he becomes more social. But for now, let's just focus on what is it about school that he doesn't like. So I guess there's a number of ways you could do that. I would probably, I mean, it's a little bit hard, but here's different things. You could probably get a friend or someone to go in and observe someone who he doesn't know. I think it would be really important to do that several days, several different time frames, because you want to understand, God forbid he's somehow being bullied. God forbid he's, you know, someone is being mean to him, whether it be another child or a teacher. I mean, we have to figure this out. It's very, very important. It could be something as extreme as that, or it could be something as little as, you know, he is embarrassed about something, which would be a good thing. And then we would be able to teach him the skills to help him cope with that or get better at whatever it is he's embarrassed about. But it is really important to find out what it is. Don't think that this is just him being shy or isolated. It could be something pretty serious. So That would be my first goal. I mean, before any other advice, I really would want to find out. Now, you can also, of course, a lot of people nowadays have, it's not legal to do this, I don't think, but I know a lot of parents have little cameras that are attached to the child's backpack or something. You should have a conversation, obviously, with his teacher, but I'm not sure his teacher will even know everything that goes on, because it's possible things are going on in the playground. It could be someone is either offending him or scaring him without being aware that they're doing that. So, I mean, anything is possible, and I think it's just important to gain some information right now.
Yeah, and it isn't legal to take a tape recorder or a camera to school that's concealed. It isn't. So we would never ever tell you to do that. But
we know parents do
that.
We
know parents that do that, and we have seen parents do that and get a wealth of information.
That's right.
So while it is not our advice to do that, you certainly, would not be the first parent to ever do that.
Exactly.
And I would say as a parent that, like, finding out what's going on when your child is so unhappy that
That's
they
right.
are finding a way to communicate about it, then for me that becomes top priority of figuring out exactly what's going on, and not trusting anything until you get to the bottom of that. And everything, of course, we go to worst case scenario as parents,
right?
And our heart gets filled with fear, and
right.
and we get back to that paralyzed thing. But as you said, everything isn't malice. Sometimes it can be unintentional.
Absolutely.
But there have been cases of where it was intentional.
Right.
So figuring it out becomes absolutely paramount. And if that's where the child is supposed to be, it's funny because I just got a phone call from a parent recently who is in that transition period where they're waiting to start at CARD, and it's like any day now they're going to start at CARD, and their child has been going to a school, and their child has always been happy at school, and the child is miserable in the extreme. Ugh. Now for that child who's about to make a transfer anyway, my advice in that moment, and I happen to be aware of what the school was, and it's a school that I had passed on once before, my advice in that moment was move. Move the child out of there, because he's going to get moved out of there anyway. Don't torture him, right? But since you're in 10th grade and it looks like that might be the place that you want to stay, give it a real good hard look.
Yeah.
But I think as parents, we all need to be willing, no matter what school, to look at other alternatives. I think about Alex Plank and his parents when he was having a particularly bad time in 1 grade, pulled him out and put him in a different school for I think 1 year, and it made all the difference. I know parents that have pulled out and homeschooled, or pulled out and put their child in a CARD academy for a year or two.
Yeah.
It's like, if I had to come to work every day and be so miserable, I don't know what I would do when I'm an adult.
Honestly, that's a really good point, Shannon, because it does cause depression after a while. I mean, if you just force the child to keep going, then there's no question they're going to be pretty depressed about things. And I just reread the question and thought to myself, maybe you're asking something else, so let me just also address that. There are things you can do for him to be a little bit more expressive about what's going on, if that's what you're asking. For example, comic strips are a very good way for our adult children or adolescent children to express themselves. What you do is you draw a stick figure, which is him, and you label it him, and then you draw stick figures for other people who he encounters. And you then establish a little, a voice, I guess, bubble where you will write in there what he said, and then you will have a little thought bubble for what he was thinking. Same thing for all the other people. And then you can use different visuals to express emotions, like a heart to express feelings, and then he can say how he felt. And the reason you introduce these little things, icons, are so that he can express himself. So, for instance, you'll draw a stick figure of him and say, when you went to school in the morning, what did you say? and you'll fill that in, and then what were you thinking, and you'll put that, and how did you feel? And then you'll write in the heart, you know, I felt okay or happy or sad. And if he says I felt sad, then you'll say, well, what were you thinking that made you sad? Or what did the other person say that made you sad? Now, because it's more visual, it helps our kids express themselves a little bit better. So he might be able to tell you a little bit about what it is in school that's disturbing him. And, you know, using visual comic strips always helps with our kids. But again, I don't know your child, and I don't know his level of expression. How well can he identify his own emotions, and how well can he express them? So, you know, you either have to find out through these other means, or you can have that type of conversation with him.
And I think too, maybe it needs to be said, as a parent, you know, I think both of us are of this mindset, Dr. Granpeesheh, that at some point it's important to say to your child too, and to express this verbally and to express this physically too. There's nothing that you can't tell me. And,
yes.
and there's nothing that you can't tell me that I won't be on your side.
Right.
And we will deal with it together, whatever it is that you have to tell me.
Right.
So that, because I have seen this with my own child, that there have been times that he hasn't told me something because he was afraid of what my reaction would be.
Right.
And
That's
that he
right.
was afraid that there was nothing that could be done about it anyway.
Right.
Because it would be inconvenient what had to be done.
Right.
So I do think even with our kids on the spectrum, we need to vocalize it, and we need to back it up. And once you say, and you can say anything, and I'm not going to freak out, then you need to control yourself when they say something that you normally would freak out about.
Absolutely.
Had to do that myself once or twice and be like, no, I'm fine. I'm
Yeah.
absolutely fine.
Yeah.
When I'm not, you know, right? But let them know that we're the safe place and that they can
Absolutely.
they can
tell
us
you anything. Right.
and that we will hear them.
Right,
They
absolutely.
need to know
And
that.
sometimes, you know, something they tell you might seem little to you, but it's much bigger to them. So, you know, just be open and allow them to express themselves. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Now we got a lot of questions about school. I want to go to this next one. Hey,
course.
Shannon and Dr. Doreen, West Virginia mom here. I wanted to start off by thanking you, Shannon, for the segment last week where you spoke about the urgency of treatment, etc. I really got on a soapbox on Thursday.
Okay.
And she said I really needed to hear that and have someone reignite that sense of
That's great.
urgency in myself. Thank
That's
you,
great.
and thank you for saying that. My question is about fear of eliminating at school. My daughter is still struggling with the transition to school, and this is our third week. Today she cried and cried when I left. She hasn't been eating her lunch. When I asked her why, she said, because I don't want to poop at school. She refuses to eat and holds her BM until she gets home. As soon as she's home, she uses the bathroom and wants to eat due to how hungry she is. I was upset with the school's response. They brush it off as no big deal, and she would eat if she was hungry. There's compassion. I have never had a problem with this child eating. How do I help her anxiety at school? And thanks so much. We love you guys. We love you back.
Thank you very much. So, you know, I think you need to just, you've recognized the problem, and I think you need to hit it straight on. So I think the best way to do this is probably to see if you can, either on a holiday or on a weekend, gain access to the school and actually practice going to the bathroom. The more comfortable, the issue is more going to the bathroom. If you fix that, the eating will automatically fix itself. So I think that you should probably just work on ways to get her more comfortable with going to the bathroom. Obviously, if you have access to the place, it's better. Obviously, then the next step, you know, once you've taught her to be comfortable with the actual bathroom, the next step will be going to the bathroom when there's other kids in school. So there's several different phases of this that you'll have to work on. You can, depending on her functioning level, you can do like a desensitization process. Desensitization involves taking pictures of or writing steps that are, like, let's say, the most fear-evoking to the least fear-evoking. So the most fear-evoking would be perhaps actually using the bathroom in school. The least would be, you know, talking about going to the bathroom or something like that. And you would put steps in there, and you would make her comfortable with each gradient until she's actually comfortable going. The way that desensitization works is usually we teach our kids some sort of alternative behavior that's relaxing. Let's say meditation or breathing exercises or listening to music or whatever, and we pair it with each of the stressful stages until the child is able to have a calm experience with the most stressful. Now, with her, because it hasn't gotten too ingrained, it's sort of the beginning of things, the best thing you can do is just actually go to school with her, have her use the bathroom, probably a little bit better if the kids aren't there at first, and then gradually do it when the kids are there, and so that she knows it's completely fine. And once she's done that once or twice, the fear will have gone away, and then she will start eating healthy and using the bathroom. You know, it's funny, using public bathrooms is actually a phobia that a lot of adults have. A lot of people have that phobia. So sometimes it has to do with a phobia relating to germs. I don't think that's the case in her case. I think it has more to do with embarrassment. Embarrassment is always a good thing for our kids because it implies theory of mind. It implies they're worried about how other people will perceive them, and that's always a good thing. But at this point, I think you just go ahead and be there for her, support her to go to the bathroom, and, you know, get her through it and see that she let her see that it's okay.
And I just want to throw one extra thing on the pile because I
Please.
always do that.
Oh, please, we love it.
But, you know, I was terrified to go to the bathroom at school when I was a kid because we had those classrooms that there were two classrooms side by side and there was a bathroom between them. Mm-hmm. And you went into the bathroom on your side of you knocked to see if you went into the bathroom on your side and there were no locks on the doors.
That's terrible.
And so you would sit there and try to hold both doorknobs because somebody from the other classroom, and it was on a daily basis, somebody would throw the door open wide and somebody would be there with their pants around their ankles. So I never wanted to go to the bathroom. So when I had a kid who didn't want to go to the bathroom at school, I immediately jumped to that.
Yes.
Because that was my perception. But one of the things that we discovered was that some of the kids, like the bathroom is a very echoey place, and some of the kids make a lot of noise in the bathroom, and they pick on kids in the bathroom. It's their place where they're away from eyes. So we wrote it into Jem's IEP that he got to go to the bathroom at the nurse's office, which meant he had more time at the nurse's office. He got to go in there. He was left alone. Nobody would disturb him. There was a lock on the door. And he did that for years until we tapered him off of that.
And I love that. I'm so glad you said that because I just read there might be some noise issues as well. Who knows? You never know.
It's very echoey in that bathroom.
It could be a multitude of things. I mean, you just made me realize it could be the noise. It could be someone has made fun of her in the bathroom. It could be the stalls are very open underneath and maybe someone has looked underneath. Yeah. Whatever it is, make sure that you have a conversation with her about it. She can maybe try to express to you what it is. And as Shannon said, you might even be able to avoid the whole thing, which why not? Like, I'm all for accommodating our kids in whatever way they possibly can be accommodated, and see if there is an alternative that you can arrange for your child, because that helps reduce. Don't fight any battle you don't need to, honestly.
Yeah. And that worked great because, he used to take quite a bit of time to go. And now it seems like in a lot of schools, they'll send a buddy with a child to go to the bathroom. Right. And the buddy would stand there and be like, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up outside the door, which, like we all need that when we're trying to go to the bathroom, right?
Honestly, yeah.
So anyway, talk to her, talk to the people at school and see what you can do. But I had it written into the IEP, special accommodation. He got to use the bathroom at the nurse's office.
Yeah, and you should make sure you make a big deal of it. I hate the fact that the school thinks it's just okay. It's not okay.
Yeah, well, I think it's that thing of they think we're overreacting to everything, and that's okay. I just made my peace with that a lot of years ago. Yeah. It was like, watch me overreact then. And I love it when people say you're crazy, and I go, yes, and your point, right? Yeah. Moving on.
Yeah,
if you think that was an insult, we're not, I'm not insulted. Deflect. Moving on. All right, let's take a short break, and then we'll come back. We have lots more questions about school. So stick with us more after these messages. Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. We're here with Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh, and she's answering your questions in real time. We had another question, and I'm not going to get to all of them, and I apologize to everybody, but Dr. D and Shannon, I love you. We love you back. Dr. D, my son gets ABA 29 hours a week per school per week per school calendar, and half that in the summer all through the school district. Should I be asking for full-time all summer? He's been in the program for a year and a half, and we are hoping someday to transition him back to the school district when he graduates the program. Now he is almost 8 and in the 2nd grade, she put in quotation marks. So I guess where I'm not clear is he at a center or for those 29 hours during the school year?
Yeah, I mean, the school district could be funding therapy that's occurring at school, which is not usually as high quality as what would happen at home or at a center, just because there's so many distractions. And then, yeah, it's just not clear who's providing it, etc. Regardless, the answer is still the same. The recommendation for hours has to be individualized. I don't know how he's doing. I don't know what his needs are. I would guess if he's, I think she said 8 years old.
8 years old.
I would guess that you probably want as many hours as humanly possible around the clock. So that would be a lot of hours, not just 29, but intensive hours. And yes, it would probably be better for him to have it all through the year, but I really can't make that distinction because I know nothing about your child. So if you haven't, you must have an ABA supervisor, and that's the person who should be making the recommendation. And as I said, I'm coming to find that there are a lot of ABA people out there who just kind of water it down and just do ABA here and there on the side. You know, always make sure your provider is someone who sets really high-level goals for your child, because the more we push our kids, the more they're able to do, and the less we push them, the less they do. I mean, just like anyone else. So,
and you know, to me, there's like 3 different categories of ABA providers. There are people who hung out a shingle because they saw that this was the thing and that there was going to be money in it for the next foreseeable future, decade, whatever. Right. And they don't really know what they're doing. And they're fine. They're learning as they go along, but they're fine with not knowing what they're doing.
Right.
Then I think there's a group of people who I think know what the prescription is, but they don't give it to parents. And when I ask them, why are you not giving the prescription? Why did you look at this child who's 4 years old and write them a prescription for 15 hours when you know perfectly well that that's unethical?
Or Shannon, 2 hours, 3 hours. Like,
believe me,
I'm seeing so much of that. I'm so shocked that people are doing like 2 hours of ABA.
And what gets said back to me from these people with soulful, tearful eyes is, well, I just know what the insurance will pay for, and I didn't want to get the parents' hopes up.
Right.
I didn't want them to be crushed. I know how hard it is for them, so I wrote the prescription for what the insurance company would give. To which I say to those people, that is so wrong.
Right.
If your child was diagnosed with a brain tumor, would you want the doctor to tell you what the best prescription was?
Exactly.
Or would you want the doctor to tell you what the insurance company was going to pay for?
Right.
You would sue that doctor if they just said what the insurance company would pay for. But these people don't have a backbone. They don't want to tell you the truth because they don't want to have to cause you the pain of knowing that you're going to have to fight to get what your child needs.
Yes, and of course the ABA provider then has to support your fight, right?
Right.
I mean, I was just reading actually an appeal letter that one of our supervisors had written for a family. It was so good. It was so well written. I had to write the supervisor and say, good job. Like, that's a great letter. But I mean, you get involved with this appeal. But aside from, I mean, that's definitely present. For sure, there are people who won't have the backbone to step up and say, this is what you need and I'll help you fight for it.
Yeah.
There's also people out there who are, unfortunately, they're even board certified in behavior analysis, and they will absolutely, just because they don't understand what ABA is all about and the capability of our children, they will recommend 5 hours a week. There's that happening out there as well, which is pretty scary.
Which is nutty.
So, you know,
but then there's the third type of provider, which is what CARD is, which is they're going to write the prescriptions. So I want to go back because she wrote back in and said, yes, my son is at the center
great.
for the school year. But so here, I want to go back because I looked at the question again.
So she's just asking about summer versus school year.
Well,
I
the
think.
school year, my understanding is the school district is paying for 29 hours a week during the school year, but during the summer, they're saying they're only paying for half.
That's what she's asking.
Because they would be on summer break, and most kids, if they're doing summer school, they would have to pay for less.
Right.
So I want to say, yeah, ask the school for the whole thing, but even if the school won't pay for the whole thing, we should be looking at other funding sources to get more.
I would say that. I mean, historically, what I'm looking at is, you know, it's actually pretty good if your school is paying anything for the summer, to be honest, because they do have a case in terms of saying, hey, in the summer, generally speaking, we don't have to pay for anything. But we used to fight that argument, and we'd get up to, like, let's say 50 out of the 52 weeks paid. I think you have good funding from your district. That's pretty good. I think you should be looking at your insurance to supplement this funding. In fact, during the school year, I would recommend that you increase your hours and have the additional hours funded by by your insurance.
Yes.
So you can have two sources of funding. And don't forget, the stuff that is funded through the school district will not be everything. Often school districts don't want to allow the provider to work on adaptive skills, for instance, or things that have to do with the home. So, you know, if you get insurance funding, it broadens what you're allowed to use that money for anyway. So I think that's where you should be going. Hopefully you have health insurance. I mean, right now Medicaid covers it as well. So that's what I would do.
Yeah. And just to clarify, there's a kind of newer law that says that school districts have to pay, if you can prove that your child will regress more than 20%, they do have to pay for some summer school, but it's not
exactly.
But it's not the full amount of
That's what we always used to fight for, was regression will happen.
Exactly. But getting another funding source on board will not, the school may, if they find out, which you don't need to necessarily run a flag up and tell them, may say, oh, well, we're not responsible for all this, and CARD can help you to fight and say, well, this category goes in here, but get as many hours as you can, and there are multiple funding sources.
Absolutely.
But good on you that you've got the school on the hook for this. You're doing good. Now let's get your insurance company on the hook for it as well. And I'm looking at time. We're out of time.
I know, but before we go real quickly, I just read a question that was very quick to answer. If we could do that one. And this is the one that says, my son is 5 years old, will be 6 in November of this year. He's getting center-based ABA services 30 hours a week. We're planning for him to skip kindergarten this coming school year and focus on ABA. My question is, what are the things we should be prioritizing when making the decisions? And that is just really, really simple. You go to skills. And that's what skills is all about. You will go to skillsforautism.com and you'll answer a whole bunch of questions by your child, and it will give you every program that you need to do for your child. So
specifically for your child.
Very specifically what your child needs, and it'll tell you the order. It'll show you which one is easier, harder, what your prerequisites are. It'll go across every area of functioning. So do skills. That's what it's exactly for what you need, and it'll get you going.
There's even one whole section of the curriculum that's academics that can entirely replace and have your child completely ready for whatever kindergarten, first grade, second grade. And that's just one of the 8 curricular areas, so it's pretty impressive. Thank you for bringing that up and getting that, squeezing that in.